Okay, so I don't know if I should just tell you what I was hoping to do. I was probably going to look at the bronze level one, because the other ones were too expensive for me, and I would want to get my foot in the door, kind of thing. So feedback-wise, your approach, you came in, you definitely built rapport, we chatted for a minute. It's always nice just to sort of break the ice so you're not just coming in and go straight to business. Your needs identification, I actually thought was good. I think you did a really good job of uncovering questions, but it didn't seem like that was really, it didn't come off too strong. Like you asked the right questions in a very kind of relaxed manner. I didn't feel like you were, just drilling me with questions. You did uncover the decision process. So am I able to make the decision? You did ask that, which is good. I haven't seen that in all of these. You did kind of clarify my needs in a sort of roundabout way, but I ended up getting to tell you, like, I need, competent salespeople. My financials are important to me. Somehow you did dig those out, even though you didn't really explicitly ask them. I felt like it was natural for me to tell you from what you were asking. And I did a good job objection handling. It was, you had, a lot to say back for what I was saying. But at the same time, I kind of kept giving you the same objections, and I felt like, at some point I wasn't going to go for these higher ones, so you might have lost the wholesale altogether if you just kept pushing for them. Okay. Versus maybe, having me, she's basically saying it's not going to happen, so can I at least get anything out of her? Or if I keep saying, well, you don't even want the bronze and silver, they're not good, then you're using something that you want to sell as kind of like a negative to sell a higher amount, but I'm not going to take this higher amount. Okay. So then now you have me thinking that these aren't even good because you've used them as sort of pitted against these. Right. You don't want me to think that these aren't good because then I'm going to say, well, if these are terrible and these are too expensive, I'm just not going to go with anything. Okay. So that would have been my biggest thing, was that I felt like these weren't even something I should be considering because you were like, well, you're not really getting much with that. Well, then why do I even want to sign for anything, Yeah. That would probably be my biggest thing. Okay. There was so much focus on the higher level one that I was just probably not going to do. So, and then we didn't have a chance to close. I probably should have given you more of a warning that we were low on time, but we didn't do much, moving on to the next round. So, yeah, any questions for me?
Well, I know that you said that I should have pushed more to the lower levels. Is there anything else you think I should?
Yeah, and I think you had the right approach. I mean, I'm sure you should be going for those top ones first, but I think I made it clear after a few rounds that, like, it wasn't going to happen. Yeah. So then at that point, you can look at the other ones. But, yeah, I mean, we didn't, I don't know, I think I would have liked a little bit more on really, I mean, what makes you think it'll be successful in this first year? Because there's no idea. How do you know students are even going to attend? Yeah. How do you know what it's going to be like? But at the same time, you don't know, so it's hard to fight that back. But, for me, I'd want to go with something that I know is a sure deal, that I've been working with NCSC. I know it's going to work for me. Okay. I really need something strong that's going to make me think this new thing is going to be great. So, yeah, I need a little more convincing. Okay. But I think you did a good job.
All right,
so,
thank you.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, thanks. Good to see you again.
Nice to see you.
All right.
And then what I can do, if you have a minute, we can do maybe some feedback too. Yeah, so my recommendation would be when you, again, the rapport building I really liked when you came in, and we talked a little bit about some different things not business related. So rapport building was great. It was a nice opening. For uncovering my needs, I would have liked to see maybe some more questions about what specifically I need versus maybe providing me with these items that, because it sounds like you already knew what I needed, versus really uncovering are these my true specific needs? So it was kind of more an assumption of what my needs were. Sorry about that. And then in an appointment, normally I wouldn't read through something like this because I'd want to hear from you what value you're bringing me.
Okay.
So again, uncovering the needs and then overcoming objections. I would have liked to see a little bit more of connecting a feeling to me. Like, would I be relieved to know these candidates are, and then supporting it with your facts. So how would it be saving me time, and how would, again, with your candidates,
Same time.
yeah, how would that benefit me personally?
Right.
And then supporting it with the facts of the program. And then as far as, again, the ROA, I like that you talked about that, but maybe expounding on, again, rather than providing me with this or something to look at, I wouldn't read through that in an appointment. So asking me to, like, how much does it cost you to retain these people? Are you losing people again? And you ask some good questions about that. But again, I would have liked to see, instead of telling, with the article, maybe explaining, you know, it costs your company a lot of money to lose or have bad hires. And here's why I know that can be, because it's technically my reputation when I'm recruiting people and bringing them to the organization. So there's a lot on the line for me as well. Okay. So how can I feel relieved to know that these students really are the best of the best, and then bringing that program down?
Yeah, I kind of felt like there was, kind of kept saying the same.
Yeah.
Because, I don't know, it's like, I don't know.
Yeah, and then for some of them, too.
It's kind of like a simple thing. There's not like a whole lot, you know.
Yeah, and like having the confidence to go for the product level and saying, here's the, I understand now that you know that I need a promising young sales student to really get going, and being able to hop in there, because we are sending so many people out to these career fairs, and maybe the quality's not there, where we could have saved some time in just attending one event, which would have showed me these specific items. So you're just about there, but it needed to kind of tie in a little bit. And then the rationale. So again, we need to show financial benefits for us, and while it's really difficult to do that in recruiting, you got there a little bit with showing me that there is a cost of bad hiring and how you guys can help. I would like to see it expounding more. Okay. So again, just really focusing in on those two needs that I had in the beginning, and then hounding in on that and connecting, really uncovering those needs. And I think that would give you a little bit more things to talk about throughout the sale, and would help you overcome those objections of tying it back to my needs.
All right. All right, that sounds good.
And then closing at the end. But yeah, that's where I would just start, as maybe some more questions on the front end.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds good. Yeah, I wasn't sure, because it was like, he's like all the facts, then trying to ask like more questions about that.
Yeah, so really asking maybe one or two, three more questions if you're not really getting the need that I have. Continue to dig in until I tell you, I really need this, or we're really seeking this or looking for this, and finding that gap. Okay. And that's where you can provide your value in the program, because you're connecting the program to the need that I have.
Okay.
And then, too, I was the decision maker, so I know you had mentioned that I could bring these back to my team to review, but I would be the one that would be making the decision on it.
Right.
So having the confidence to let me know why I need it.
Okay.
And why I need to buy it today.
All right, that sounds good. Yeah, I brought the contract.
Yeah.
Not necessary.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think you did well. It's really good to continue to do these, and the more you do, the more familiar you'll get, and the confidence that you'll find to really uncover the needs, and that's where you'll get the kind of meat and potatoes of your pitch.
It's tough though, because it's like, you know, you're selling something that you've only been given like last week. So
yeah. Oh no, I've been there. I was in the 450 program too.
Oh, really?
So yeah, I didn't go to Purdue. I went to NIU.
Oh, okay.
But I did go to NIU, so I totally understand where you guys are coming from, and this is going to put you so much, because you're practicing like this. You're going to be so much more advanced when you do come out of the program, because you're understanding and you're practicing the role plays and the kind of format, and you'll be able to pick up and recognize those things. So yeah,
sounds good.
Good job. Yeah.
Okay, let's do bad, good, and general thoughts.
Okay.
So the first thing was like the agenda. Like, what were your thoughts
What was it?
What were your thoughts around like bringing?
Well, just to keep the timeline and keep focused.
So it's kind of awkward to have rapport.
I know.
And then we kind of built rapport.
Yeah.
I mean, talking about this company the other
I know.
this
is why I was late because I was trying to print it out, and I emailed myself an agenda, but it was for another thing, and this was the one that printed out, and I didn't have time to go back, so I know I shouldn't have put report. But.
Like an agenda could be something so simple as like, I want to understand what Verizon really wants, so I want to ask you some questions, and then I want to get some feedback from you, and then we can kind of decide where to go from there. Like, it can be just as general as that, and then you're kind of controlling that agenda from there on, because you've got in your mind, I'm going to open up and talk to them, but like having a printed out one that says like, I'm going to segue and transition into something else, it's just really awkward, because then I feel like you're trying to control me. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So just be careful. So one of like the first questions that you asked me about Verizon, I flipped back at you and asked you what you knew, and then you kind of just fell apart. instead of just keeping it, general, and then maybe even asking me a question back. Like I kind of gave you what I wanted, and then it was a good opportunity for like a soft close to be like, is that right?
Okay.
And confirm with me. Because people are definitely going to flip questions back on you all the time. Just be ready to be able to handle those. And then we switched from like uncovering my needs to talking about the program, and then went back to uncovering my needs.
Okay.
So that was kind of awkward.
Okay.
Because we're then switching between the presentation and the needs uncovering.
I know. Well, because I felt like I didn't explain the sales Decathlon up front. So when I was talking about
the meeting, so there
I wasn't going to plan anything out, but I had a general idea about what I wanted to do in my head.
So then go right back to your intro and say, we've talked a couple times, we've exchanged some emails, because I want to talk about sales Decathlon, but up front, I want to ask you some more questions just so I get a better understanding, and then I can share with you some information I brought today, and then we can decide where to go.
Okay.
Because then you frame it, you don't have to go in between. Because it does. Exactly. I mean, you're right. That's exactly why you went. Well, and this is what I'm talking about because the intro is just not there. So one of the big things was like having your questions already written out.
Well, that's what we were told to do.
I know. Let's be careful because then I think.
That's the first time I've ever printed them out. I usually just handwrite them. Just so I can...
Right, which is good. I think you should have them handwritten because you know what you need to ask.
Exactly.
But be flexible enough that if something comes up that you can go off of your list of questions.
Yeah.
Which you were fine on. I just want to make sure that, you have this set list of questions, but depending on their response, you could go in another direction.
Okay.
Because a lot of times you weren't actually listening to my answer. You were getting ready to ask your next question.
Okay.
So like you interrupted me a couple times because you were just, thinking ahead, which is what we all do. And we don't sit there and just like take a breath and realize that we're just both people and that we can talk to each other and you can take that time to think after they answer. You don't have to be ready to go somewhere. Okay. And that just comes with like, experience and learning.
So, would you recommend just writing the questions out then? So you're not, stuck to that set?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just be flexible. I mean, the biggest thing is you don't have to write your whole question. I mean, you could write a couple words and you know what question's going to come out. It doesn't have to be a whole sentence. So just be flexible on where you want to go. There's certain things you want to get out of a meeting, but depending on what they say, you might have to change directions.
Okay.
One of the best things that you did that was my favorite is you used my own words, which is dynamite in any sales meeting, is you're saying the actual verbal words that I said back to me. You said this and using the exact phrase that I said. That will take you so far. It's amazing. Because they are really thinking at that point that you are listening and that you're repeating back to them like what you really want and you get it and you understand and you're making recommendations based off of that. So I really appreciate that. So I gave you a lot of tough objections, but then I told you that this is in line with what I want to do and you didn't close me.
I know.
You're like, okay, I'll just think about it. But then you also didn't make a follow-up.
True.
So you just told me to go ask my people when I told you I could decide right here in this room right now. Because I'm the decision maker.
It was just, I didn't know how I would close because I didn't want to say, okay, we'll start off at the product level, $40,000. and then
So at one point you gave me a recommendation. Verizon needs this. I think this is in line with, and you got me to really say this is in line with what we want to do, even after all the objections. So say, instead of just saying you should do product level, say, you know what, me and you, let's go through this. Let's pick out some of these events that you really want to participate in. Ahead of time before the meeting, based on our previous conversation, I picked out a few that I thought would be good for you.
Okay.
Based on that, I think, and give them a couple options, I think some of these too would be better for you, and I want you to look through this and decide together.
Okay.
So then you're closing them, you're getting them to purchase one of these, but you're giving them a dang good reason. Because we've got 4 options here, they've got a lot of different events that tie into them. So recommend, based on this, I really think gold would be a good option, but we've also got the product level, and that brings you up to also doing blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
So then they feel like we're making a decision together, and you're not just telling them, hey, buy our largest one for $40,000.
Okay. Yeah.
Because you had the opportunity to close, and then you got everything.
It's the hardest part is closing. So.
I know. But you can't get business unless you ask for it.
I know. Do you actually work for Verizon or?
I work for MKTG.
Okay.
But we've got a couple Verizon folks here today. Which is why I flipped your question on you.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I didn't. Because we had I'm sure you guys had a sheet too of stuff. Mm-hmm. And we did too. And I mean, it just tells us, what Verizon has done, but it really doesn't tell about the, students and how you move up and everything like that. So when you flipped it on me, I really didn't know, but I went with it.
And people do that a lot in interviews too. Like if you ask people in interviews, they flip questions, and it's just depending on what it is, they might flip it back on you, and it's just interesting. If you're gonna ask the question, be able to answer it yourself. Any other thoughts on your end?
No. I know. I have to work on closing. That's all.
But I love that you use my words. Okay. That's invaluable when people do that. All right. I think I have another one.
All right.